morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and here is your update on ex-tropical cyclone Alfred moving inland across South East Queensland this morning. It is still a significant threat to the southeast corner of Queensland, with heavy to locally intense rainfall continuing across South East Queensland, and significant rainfall accumulations have been reported overnight, which has led to minor to moderate riverine flooding as a result across South East Queensland and into the northeast of New South Wales. All of the details surrounding what's happened in the forecast of this tropical cyclone coming up in today's forecast update. If you are brand new to the channel, please consider subscribing and also leave a like on the video while you're at it. The support lately has been much appreciated. But continuing into the forecast update, with tropical cyclone Alfred here now moving inland between Dalby and Kingaroy and weakening quite rapidly. I mean, you can see here the remnant low of this system is really extended, and it's looking quite raggedy this morning. So again, tropical cyclone Alfred is really nothing more apart from an elongated low pressure system and a whole bunch of rainfall, which you can see here on the radar imagery, extending as far north as about Hervey Bay, which have copped it last night, mind you, with a near record 250 millimetres falling in 2.5 hours outside of Hervey Bay, and heavy to locally intense rainfall extending up the Fraser Island coastline as well. Very heavy falls are expected to continue throughout the Sunshine Coast throughout the remainder of today and into tomorrow morning as well. Heavy rainfall has continued across Moreton Island and North Stradbroke Island overnight, and heavy to locally intense rainfall has been reported into the northwestern suburbs of Brisbane and throughout the southeast of Queensland in general. Rainfall is not easing off anytime soon, though, and the severe weather warning is standing for the next couple of hours. We've got plenty more rainfall to get through here, and that's going to be on top of rainfall accumulations between 150 and 350 millimetres across the southeast of Queensland, which have been very widespread overnight. And once again, the backside of this tropical cyclone has been much worse than what the initial impact was, especially for the Brisbane metro area. We've had a night of winds sustained at around that 60 to 70 kilometre an hour mark, and gusts up to about 110 kilometres an hour along the Moreton Bay coastline. Significant wind gusts have also been reported north up towards Redcliffe and Bribie Island, and some strong winds have also been reported along the Moreton Island area as well. And just coupled with this heavy rainfall, it has been a problematic and destructive night over in the Brisbane area, extending inland towards Ipswich, Logan City and Redland City as well. So extensive damage has been reported around Brisbane, and it is quite an ugly picture to be waking up to this morning, with lots of rainfall, a lot of wind damage, and to be honest, quite a lot of destruction around the southeast corner of Queensland again from tropical cyclone Alfred, with a lot more of this rainfall and this very problematic rainfall still to come throughout the course of today and into tomorrow morning. So let's jump into the forecast right now and see what is expected over the next couple of hours. So the heavy stuff is concentrated now along the southeast corner of Queensland, and over the next couple of hours we're expecting this to extend across the northern parts of the Sunshine Coast, excluding Hervey Bay. I mean, if we check back on the radar imagery here, you can see that the rain is starting to ease off up here, but we are expecting showers and thunderstorms to develop south of Fraser Island down through Rainbow Beach and down towards Noosa, which haven't really picked up any rainfall over the last 24 hours, unlike what the forecast was initially suggesting. So rainfall there will be pretty quick to pick up over the next couple of hours. We could still be seeing rainfall accumulations get quite heavy around the Noosa and the Maroochydore area, expecting the significant rainfall accumulations into the southeast corner of Queensland to ease off pretty shortly. I mean, we are still expecting moderate to intense rainfall across much of the Gold Coast hinterland areas right through Brisbane and then as far north as Caboolture through the next couple of hours, but they will continue to ease off as we get out to about lunchtime today, and then isolated heavy rainfall bouts are still expected around the Brisbane area, and especially off in towards the northwestern parts of Brisbane throughout the remainder of today as well. Then as that moisture band gets sucked down the Sunshine Coast and collides with the northwestern mountains outside of Brisbane and the Ivanhoe Dam area, expecting another round of heavy rainfall to develop there early tomorrow morning on Monday, and that heavy to locally intense rainfall will continue between Toowoomba and Brisbane over the Gatton area out towards Lowood, Esk, Ipswich, Ivanhoe Dam, and as far north as about Gympie. To be honest, there'll be moderate to heavy falls streaming through in these areas here, and into the northwestern suburbs of Brisbane. The heavy rainfall will continue through Monday morning and into early Monday afternoon, and then finally, by the looks of things, on Monday afternoon and into Monday evening, the conditions will calm off for good around southeast Queensland, and whilst there will still be a few showers here and there throughout Monday night into Tuesday morning, it looks like it will be a much calmer and much more collected picture for southeast Queensland to be able to comfortably go outside and assess the damage and begin the long recovery from tropical cyclone Alfred's disastrous impact. It has been a storm, that's for sure, and again, just reading the comment section overnight, I've had countless comments pour in, just people telling me how bad the conditions were last night, how strong the winds are and how heavy the rainfall is, and you can see it on the radar imagery right now with very, very heavy rainfall being very widespread across southeast Queensland. You can see it's just starting to become a little bit more fractured compared to where it was a couple of hours ago, which is a sign that this rainfall is now beginning to weaken up a little bit and ease off a little bit, especially for the southeastern parts of Queensland around the border of New South Wales and Queensland. It looks like the rainfall there is just finally starting to ease up a little bit, but around the Brisbane area you've still got about 24 hours of on and off very heavy rainfall continuing in those areas, which again is quite a scary prospect considering they're probably not even halfway through their rainfall accumulations for tropical cyclone Alfred, especially with the heavy stuff that will come through tonight and into tomorrow morning. On top of the rainfall accumulations that we've already seen as a result of this tropical cyclone, we will be seeing some very significant rainfall accumulations from the rest of this tropical cyclone. So let's see what numbers we are expecting. I'm using the convective forecast models here because we're talking about rainfall dominated by thunderstorms here, and the convective forecast models historically do a very good job at that. So rainfall accumulation starting in the north and heading south, expecting spot accumulations as far north as Bundaberg to be up around that 100mm mark, but generally speaking, rainfall accumulations north of Bundaberg throughout the remainder of this rainfall event aren't going to be too high, just a couple of drops of rainfall here and there, with Bundaberg itself expecting about 20mm of much needed rainfall. Down on Fraser Island, not too much rainfall again. The rainfall is very hit and miss as you get north of Maroochydore, where it will then start to turn into solid streams of rainfall, with peak accumulations outside of Caboolture and into the Erimborough Dam. We're expecting rainfall accumulations up there to be around that 300mm mark, and then heading further south around the Wivenhoe Dam area, depending on what mountains, but certainly some of the mountains that feed into the Bremer River, we could be seeing a further 400mm, with widespread falls between 200 and 300mm outside of Ipswich, between Ipswich out towards Gatton into the foothills areas down here, and then down towards Spooner. Significant rainfall accumulations up to about 200mm can be expected there. Another very heavy bout of rainfall is expected through the next couple of hours, with a further 300 up to about the further 400 or even 500mm expected around the Redland City area. That will include some of the rainfall that has already fallen or is beginning to fall right now, but still a very significant amount of rainfall is expected there throughout the next couple of hours, considering that that is right in the firing line for the heaviest stuff. You can see the heaviest falls now heading through Redland City, and that rainfall is expected to continue over the next couple of hours, and as a result, some really significant rainfall accumulations can be expected there. And as we play this forecast forward, it looks like Redland City throughout the remainder of today is going to be really picking up a lot of that rainfall. So expecting some massive problems there in terms of rainfall, and you can see as we check back on the rainfall accumulations map, we could be seeing falls as high as about 400 or 500mm through the Redland City area, and then out towards Logan City as well, getting jammed up against some of those mountains further inland out towards Greenbank and Jimboomba. We could be seeing rainfall accumulations up there up to about 500mm as well. So again, some really significant rainfall accumulations still possible around the Brisbane area, the Logan City area, and also around the Redland City area, kind of between Moreton Island and North Stradbroke Island. There's going to be a bit of a highway for this rainfall to be funneled in here, and that's just how the banding systems have lined themselves up for ex-tropical cyclone Alfred. We're looking at a bit of a funnel of rainfall just streaming in here between Brisbane down towards Coomera and the Sanctuary Cove area. So anywhere north of Brisbane, actually up towards the northern suburbs of Brisbane, I forget their names, but up towards Strathpine, we're expecting rainfall accumulations up there to be a little bit lighter comparatively speaking to what the southern suburbs of Brisbane can be expecting, especially out towards Logan City and around Redland City. Like I've said, the rainfall is going to be extremely heavy in these locations, and people do need to be bracing for impact right now, because like I said, the convective forecast models can get things very right sometimes, and if we're looking at 500mm coming through in the next 24 hours, that is going to cause some very significant problems, that's for sure. And unfortunately, that does look like a very valid prediction and a very accurate number that the forecast models have spat out for us this morning. And you can see that rainfall contracting inland through early tomorrow morning, but still some heavy falls expected here and there as you get out towards the Toowoomba area. And if we check back on the rainfall accumulations map, you can see throughout the course of tomorrow, if we drag this number right back, Toowoomba can also be expecting up to about 150 up to about 250mm of rainfall, depending on how significant the rainfall rates are out there. To be honest, the number that I'd have for Toowoomba would be about that 80 to 100mm mark. Still some significant falls, but again, nothing absolutely absurd. And then I think that might be the case of the convective forecast models being a little bit biased towards heavy rainfall out towards the Toowoomba area. So in terms of the numbers, town by town, heading from the north and down towards the south, Maroochydore about 30 to 40mm expected, Caloundra up to about 50mm of rainfall. Noosa's a bit of a wild card. They could be seeing closer to 100mm of rainfall, or they could pick up next to nothing. Further south, Caboolture and Brubby Island expecting up to about 100mm of rainfall throughout the remainder of tropical cyclone Alfred's remnants being drawn inland. Rainfall accumulations into the mountains outside of Caboolture will be up to about 300mm. South of that, down towards Gatton, Lowood, Ipswich, and into the mountains outside of Ipswich through here, Thornton and Aratulla, we could be seeing rainfall accumulations out there up to about 300mm on top of what has already fallen. Ipswich itself expecting a further 200mm of rainfall. But the Brisbane City area could see a further 200mm of rainfall. Like I said, into the northern suburbs, a little bit of a wild card, could be anywhere between 50mm up to about 250mm through there, depending on where the rainfall highway, effectively speaking, gets itself jammed over. However, I do still think that for Redland City and Logan City, we can be locking in extra rainfall accumulations there up to about 300 to 400mm on top of what has already fallen, which in itself around the Redland City and the Logan City area has been about 250mm so far from tropical cyclone Alfred. So entire accumulations over the last couple of days, plus what's expected, could give way to rainfall accumulations in the week, ending by Monday up to about 750mm through the Redland City and the Logan City area. So again, some very scary prospects of some significant flooding expected there. Heading south, Sanctuary Cove and Coomera, rainfall accumulations up to about 150 millimetres possible there. The Gold Coast have further 100 millimetres of rainfall, the majority of which will be falling in the next couple of hours. Significant rainfall accumulations also possible into the northeast corner of New South Wales, north of Murray-Willumbah and along the mountains along the border of Queensland and New South Wales. We could be seeing falls there approaching 150 millimetres up to about 250 millimetres in the wettest of locations. Mount Tamborine about 150 millimetres on top of what has already fallen. And then pushing the forecast forward, you can see through the early parts of next week, rainfall accumulations will actually build across the northeast corner of New South Wales, generally speaking, so around the Moree area, Walgett and Narrabri, significant rainfall accumulations we'd be talking about there between 50 up to about 150 millimetres of rainfall as remnants of ex-tropical cyclone Alfred head further inland over Goondiwindi and then into the New South Wales side of things. Rainfall accumulations to the Northern Rivers part of New South Wales shouldn't be too extreme, and significant falls down along the coastline down through Coffs Harbour and then down towards the Barrington Tops also shouldn't be too extreme, with only 100 millimetres expected there over the next couple of days. But between the forecast models, there are some really big rainfall accumulations that look to be expected. I know the kind of rainfall highway that I've been talking about over the last couple of minutes that's going to head into the Redland City and the Logan City area hasn't really been picked up by other forecast models, but the convective forecast models take what is currently being observed on the radar and then make a forecast out of that. And considering that that lines up pretty much perfectly with what the radar is suggesting right now, I've got a very good reason to believe that we've got significant rainfall heading into the Redland City and the Logan City area, and I reckon that's where the majority of the attention needs to be focused by emergency services, because we're going to be seeing some really extensive damage as a result. Let's touch on the flooding forecast right now for this part of Queensland. So like I said, Redland City and the Logan City area is what's got me most concerned at this time. Extreme flash flooding can be expected as a result of this rainfall, and I need everybody to be aware of that. There is some really extreme flash flooding possible, and that will cause roads and rivers in the local area to rise very rapidly. Some really big puddles will start to develop, and we'll likely see parks turn into inland seas, temporarily speaking, of course. Significant flooding could also impact your home, especially if your backyard is low-lying or you've got water flowing through your backyard and down through other people's properties. You could be talking about some significant rivers start to open up on your property as well. So again, make sure those sandbags aren't going anywhere along your doors and floor-to-ceiling windows. Make sure you are ready for significant rainfall to be moving through, and make sure you do have a plan to get to higher ground if the rainfall does get too much and your house starts to flood. But for the most part, unless you live along a really flood-prone area for the around the Logan River, this rainfall isn't likely to cause significant flooding that will cause a wide swathe of people to be evacuating. And again, a lot of these people are significantly elevated from the Logan River, so even if it jumps up a substantial amount over the next couple of hours, it's not likely to cause a massive flooding problem. We'd have to have record-breaking rainfall across an extended period of time around the Logan River to cause such a level of flooding that would actually be very concerning and would impact tens of thousands of people very significantly. But yeah, the rainfall will certainly be quite heavy, and we can expect minor to moderate flooding through the Logan River throughout the remainder of this morning, which could reach major flooding, especially further upstream around the Jimboomba area later on this afternoon, and out towards Beaudesert. We could be seeing major riverine flooding in these areas later on this evening and into early tomorrow morning. Keep in mind, the rainfall will be steadily easing off as we get later on into tonight and into early tomorrow morning. So if you haven't flooded by about midnight tonight, you're unlikely to be flooding, with those water levels expected to peak between midnight and about 2 o'clock early tomorrow morning. Significant rainfall accumulations into the Brisbane River area will cause the Bremer River and the Brisbane River and all of their tributaries to pick up a very significant amount of rainfall, and as such we could be seeing some major flooding through the upstream parts of the Bremer River, which are draining the mountains down here, which are already picking up some really significant rainfall accumulations. But again, the Bremer River expecting some moderate flooding in there at a minimum further upstream, with minor flooding possible around the Ipswich area, and then through the Brisbane River as well. Moderate flooding expected around the Wivenhoe Dam area, turning to minor flooding as we get down towards the Ipswich once again, and then through the Brisbane metro area, with minor flooding expected in those areas as well. Keep in mind, the flood situation will be at its worst at around 2 o'clock early tomorrow morning. So again, the flooding situation normally trails the worst of the rainfall by about 4 to 6 hours, depending on whereabouts you are downstream from the rainfall. So keep in mind that once the rainfall, the really heavy stuff has fallen, the worst is still yet to come on the backside of this tropical cyclone, with the rainfall precursoring the flooding that's expected to unfold across South East Queensland by about 4 to 6 hours, generally speaking, depending on how far away you've lived from the most significant rainfall accumulations. Minor to moderate flooding has already been occurring across the southeast corner of Queensland in the Coomera and the Nerang rivers. However, the flooding problems there aren't expected to be too significant, and the water levels are now beginning to drop across some of the rivers there. Still, some significant contributions expected through the next couple of hours will cause intermittent rises here and there, but we're not expecting an all-out flooding catastrophe across the Gold Coast and down towards the Coomera River as well. significant rainfall shouldn't lead to too much in the way of significant flooding across the northeast of New South Wales. We could be seeing rivers at their absolute worst get to the high minor flooding alerts and maybe even into the moderate flooding alerts around the Murray-Willumbah area through the Tweed River, but again, flooding isn't looking like too much of a concern now for the northeast of New South Wales. And I think generally speaking, from Tropical Cyclone Alfred, they dodged a bullet, and they're the true locations up there, apart from those along the coast, especially around Byron Bay, that have dodged a true bullet from Tropical Cyclone Alfred. But yeah, still some really significant rainfall expected to continue across the southeast corner of Queensland. For those of you in the Brisbane area, especially through Redland City and out towards Logan City, so the entirety of suburban Brisbane, stay inside throughout the remainder of today and just watch this rainfall come through. Make sure you're staying up to date with radar imagery as well, and make sure you are aware of what rainfall is going to be coming in for your area. Do not go outside if it is flooded, forget it, and make sure you are staying safe and heeding all of these warnings. This is a very significant weather event, and as we said, on the backside of Tropical Cyclone Alfred, it was certainly going to be bringing some significant rainfall and some strong winds, and that has come to fruition in all of its glory. And Tropical Cyclone Alfred, while still feels like a tropical cyclone around the Moreton Bay area, is blowing ashore like the tropical cyclone itself didn't do around the Brisbane City area. So again, for the Brisbane City, stay inside, stay calm, and stay dry from this weather event here. Whilst it is a lot of rainfall, the southeast corner of Queensland is built for this type of stuff, so I want everybody to be remaining calm in an event like this. If floodwaters are looking to approach your home, get to higher ground, run from your property and run to the highest ground that you can feasibly find. If it is safe to do so and your neighbours are in a better position as well compared to you, especially if you're in a really ugly position from flooding, I strongly advise you heading over to your neighbour's house if it is safe to do so throughout intermittent breaks from the rainfall, because you can see that there are still some intermittent breaks here and there from the really heavy stuff. But if it is safe to do so, get yourself to the neighbour's house if that is going to put your mind at ease and just help you a little bit as this flooding event unfolds, especially if you live in a really flood prone area around the Ipswich area, considering that Ipswich is very low lying. But again, a lot of these homes are still built about 10 metres above the river levels on an average day, so even if the river levels got to major flooding, you'd still need a little bit more rainfall to cause some really significant problems across suburban Ipswich and suburban Brisbane. So I want everybody to understand that whilst this is some really significant rainfall and it will cause some major flooding across the rivers, that doesn't necessarily mean that wide swathes of homes are going to be inundated. There still could be some significant property losses and some erosion here and there, but it does not necessarily mean that some massive property losses can be expected as a result of moderate to major riverine flooding. But as always, stay safe, stay vigilant, and stay up to date with all the warnings on this ex-tropical cyclone, this very problematic ex-tropical cyclone as it heads further inland. Significant impacts still expected to be felt across the southeast corner of Queensland. And yeah, as we predicted, very much came into fruition this morning or late last night. The rainfall is going to be the most significant problem from Tropical Cyclone Alfred, and it has going to be was going to be at its worst on the backside of the tropical cyclone, and that has been exactly how the system has played out. So again, from a very unpredictable forecast to something that came exactly from what the forecast was suggesting, it has been an interesting system to track, that's for sure. And Tropical Cyclone Alfred has given us all sorts of problems as cyclone trackers. Anyways, let me know what the conditions are at your location in the comment section down below. I'd be more than happy to take a look at them and to tell me how much rainfall you've had overnight as well, especially up in Hervey Bay. I want to hear how significant that was. That was some really crazy stuff, and you can see the really significant rainfall still moving offshore from Hervey Bay at this time. The rainfall up there, thankfully, though, starting to ease off. That's all from me today. A special shout out to the channel sponsors. The names are on screen right now, and if the rainfall does continue, there will be a later afternoon update as well, so stick around for that. But subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a like on the video as well. And once again, a special shout out to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now, and again, I could not run the show without them. But that is all from me today, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.